Live? Oh, cool. Yeah.
This is chess. Chess is an experience. The
On
excitement,
YouTube.
the joy, the devastation, the undeniable drive to play again
Says it's
and
sending.
again. Chess is an experience that's meant to be shared.
On YouTube. Oh, there it is.
What if you could experience chess in a completely new
Ooh.
way? On a real chessboard with the power of AI at your fingertips.
Ah, there's a good bit of delay, but it looks good.
This is Chess Up 2.
Ooh.
Take everything
Hey.
you love about playing on chess.com and experience it on a real chessboard.
Let's rock and roll. Let's play some chess. Let's play some novice chess.
Play a blitz match against a random online opponent.
Alright, let's do it. Get our butt kicked in both.
Conquer the bot you've been stuck on.
This is
for
gonna be a short
months.
stream.
Or challenge a friend halfway across the world.
Okay, I mean,
Chess Up 2 is always ready and always connected with built-in Wi-Fi. Never miss a move with full piece recognition. And review all your games right on chess.com. Chess Up 2 is more than a chessboard. It's a chess trainer. If you're new to chess,
just feels like I'm gonna run into
Chess Up will
something
teach you.
dumb. Okay, well,
If you
my
already
opponent did
know
that
how to
first.
play, Chess Up will teach you how to really play. With patented AI assistance, you can balance a match between players of any skill level. Or hone your skills against one of the built-in AI coaches.
I don't know if I'm too concerned. Maybe I should be. But
The makers of Chess Up
I-
2 are the same team behind the original Chess Up. The best-selling smart chessboard in the world. So whether you're a beginner who wants to learn and improve while you play, or a chess pro who wants to go deeper into the
Sure.
world of chess,
here,
experience Chess Up 2 and
Okay.
level up your game.
gotta put a little.
This is the Google Pixel 9 with Gemini. And this is Dan, suggesting some places to meet up and watch the game tonight. But you know what's better than a list of places? Knowing how close those places are. Which is why you're just going to ask Gemini to put these places on a map. Whoa, how's that for teamwork?
Time. Lovely. Try that again.
This December, the world's top chess minds clash in the heart of New York City at the FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Championship. Witness world number one Magnus Carlsen and other stars from across the globe. Rapid and Blitz, chess in its most thrilling form, unpredictable and unforgettable. Fast moves, tactics and blunders, and moments that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness the pinnacle of chess excitement. Get your tickets now at worldrapidandblitz.fide.com.
Okay. Oh, we take those. Yes. Sometimes you get too nervous. I love this setup. Even, I don't know if this is correct, but
FIDE World Chess Championship tradition goes back to 1886, when Wilhelm
Do
Stangl
something
became
like
the
that.
first official world chess champion after defeating Johannes Zukertort as the first player to achieve 10 wins.
I don't
Nearly 150 years
think
later,
this is
the core
fine,
tradition
right?
endures. The challenger must beat the reigning champion to claim the throne. 18-year-old
I'm
Gukesh
not really
secured
sure.
his place by winning the candidates, and now gets a shot at winning the title in a head-to-head battle against the
It
reigning
looks
champion Ding.
risky for
They
her.
will face each other in up to 14 classical games. Games that can last up
Really?
to 7 or even 8 hours, with a time control of 120 minutes for the first 40 moves, followed by 30 minutes for the rest of the game with 30 seconds increment added for move 41 and on. Only one game is played per day, with rest days after game 3, 6,
18.
9, and 12. The player who first scores 7.5 points or more wins the title. If the match is tied 7-7 after 14 games of classical chess, the match goes to playoff. Regardless of how the match is decided, it's bound to be a treat for chess fans worldwide.
Something like? I actually don't.
We're back with more of the action from round 5 of the FIDE World Chess Championship live from Sentosa in Singapore. The world champion Ding Liren and the challenger Gukesh
Oh,
Damaraja
shucks.
are currently locked horns in battle in what looks like a fairly quiet middle game so far,
Ridiculous.
with more pieces coming
oh.
off the board. The question will be whether there are any twists
Do,
and turns to make this game potentially spice up in the coming moves. Grandmasters Judith Polgar,
Stream looks
Grandmasters
good.
Robert Hess, I leave that task in your very capable hands.
Thank
Stream
you,
looks
John.
good.
We have a nice view here of Ding Liren, the world chess champion, as he takes on his young challenger, Gukesh Damaraja. Gukesh aiming to be the youngest world champion, the unified world champion in history. So, Judith, we have seen a tame opening. We are in this position, 14 moves in. Now Ding is spending some time just trying to play the accurate continuations. But you and I were both surprised, given Gukesh's nature, being a calculator, liking ambitious choices. Instead, the queens are off. We're into a position where there is only one open file. It's not exactly clear where winning attempts are going to come from, but we know that for Ding, he wants to remain solid here, and that's why he is spending his time at this moment.
Yes, in this position, there are not going to be very concrete and sharp things for some time. At the same time, time element in chess, it is very important. How fast can you bring your pieces into the center, into open files? And now Gukesh will be able to do that, because next move is definitely very inviting for white, whatever black is going to be playing probably, to bring his rook to e1 and then very quickly occupy the square e5 with his knight. And if he can do that, then there is a good chance that it's not so easy to develop with the black pieces. So right now, Ding is thinking, I believe, how to develop his pieces. His a8 rook is not developed yet.
That looks
C8
terrible.
bishop is not developed yet. And the two knights, d7 and f6, they are protecting each other. The d6 bishop, of course, stands optimally, the best place in the position for black to have the bishop there, controlling the e5 for temporary time, because knight e5 will be something that is coming. So the question is for black, I believe, first of all, should he be playing h6 and asking the bishop there, where are you going? Which probably will not be moving away, but
Shucks.
having the intermediate move, giving a check.
Oh,
with the rook.
he's not paying
Then
attention.
the question is with the king, where are you going
Painful.
to be moving? Most likely, or at
testing?
first
Mic
move,
check, mic
f8
check.
seems to be
Mic
the
seems
more
okay.
logical move, because in that sense, when the c8 bishop is clearing a way for the rook from a8, and a8 rook can be playing to the open file. So this is the first question, whether is he going to be playing h6, trying to push away the bishop, or is he going to play immediately b6, try to develop with the bishop from c8, or what else can he be going for? There's not so much of an option for black, but I feel that it can be inconvenient right now.
I'm with you, and I think Ding also agrees, and that's why he is spending time in this position. And I want to just kind of overall picture mention a few things. That rook e1 check is like pre-movable. You know that's coming. But the good thing for black is if that rook does come to the center, the only open file, that encourages black to play on the queen side because the rook on a1 is actually annoying for black in many positions. If white were to play b3 and black plays b5, then you get an a4. Oftentimes these positions can get out of hand if you're not careful because black lacks development with this rook and this bishop. So h6 to me, Judith, I think we now can bring up an analysis board. That does feel like a good decision because in many positions I feel like black doesn't mind a ruined pawn structure on the king side, but you will mind if the h7 pawn drops at the end. So h6 takes away that issue for the rest of the game, or at least for the foreseeable future. And if we do bring our king to f8, I think the bishop is going to retreat to h4. And now the question, Judith, is do you play g5? Or, as I was saying with the rook on e1, maybe now's the time for black to just expand on the queen side because white's attention is distracted or focused in the center. Maybe black can say, now is the time to press forward on the flank that you just vacated.
I fully agree with you that b5 is something to look for black because it's a very energetic move. It has a plan for later to play b4, but not only that, just to gain space and make space for the bishop to develop. But
Take
also
it.
I was thinking that maybe knight h5
Take
could be
those.
an
We take.
interesting try with the idea that black can play in the next move g5 and get rid of the black square bishop. Also on f4, it's a nice spot for the knight. There is another idea also for black instead of knight h5. After h6, bishop h4, there is a new idea, weakness for white on f4. So maybe bishop f4 is also something to consider. Though probably after bishop, well, bishop f4 is also interesting because white cannot go knight e5 because of the d2 knight has to be protected, and it means that I stop white from making very active move for the moment. And g5 I can be playing later on, and knight h5. But so bishop f4 can be an unpleasant move, kind of. And white cannot go g3 to push me away because after that already bishop d2 and the h4 bishop gets in trouble after g5. So probably after bishop f4, white's best move is to play bishop g3 and kind of exchanging the pair of bishop. But when we change pieces in such a position, we are getting less and less tension in the game. For example, knight g4 is something to consider it right here. It's not unusual that black, for example, is not so active, but he's going to be playing knight e8, for example, bringing the other knight to f6 and the e8 knight to d6, for example. It's true that the e5 square will be giving away, but it's there anyway for white. So there are some alternatives to play with black, and I think this is what Ding is thinking about. He knows exactly that if he plays the accurate moves, there shouldn't be a big problem for black, and it is very close to equalization, or it is an equal position. But definitely, he has to understand it very well, and he has the time. So there is nothing against it that he spends a lot of time at this point because it is a very important moment, I think, right here for black.
Yeah, and sometimes little pawn pushes, you really have to weigh correctly if the inclusion is worth it, if it's beneficial, or if it puts a pawn on a worse square. H6 is such a natural move. You attack a bishop. You also get out of the sight of this bishop on c2, which is important in many positions because the sight of double pawns on the f-file is not the worst thing in the world. In fact, having the pair of bishops is very valuable in these types of endgames where you have play on both sides of the board. But you definitely wouldn't want that if the h7 pawn were to drop. That feels like something that you forget about it for one turn, and then you really remember when your opponent throws their h pawn, their remaining pawn, later just to go to the other side. So h6, that's my first instinct as well, Judith. I think Ding, if he were playing a bullet game of chess, he would have played it instantly, but he is just making sure that maybe that tempo is important and he should immediately play a pawn push to b5 if that's where his attention takes him, and maybe play b4. So many different ideas. It's not about the individual moves. We keep kind of harping on this point, but Ding is trying to come up with the correct idea and execute it in the right order.
Yes, exactly. But I think h6, I just don't see the drawback of that. I think
Oh,
black can win with the fact that if the bishop is moving away from g5 to h4. And
okay.
you're saying that, yeah, it's not such a big deal necessary to have a double pawn, double f pawn. But somehow many people don't like double pawns, you know? It just looks ugly, and it can be unpleasant. And to tell you the truth, I don't even remember games in this kind of position where, let's say, they ended up, or not so many games from the Petrov or this, where someone played h6 and after that moved away and allowed bishop f6, gf6. Though it doesn't seem to be too
Free
bad at
tempo.
all, because after the exchange on f6, first of all, black will never have a problem to see a knight on e5, right? So that is something very good for black. At the same time, having the double pawns, sometimes it has no problem, but some players just hate to have double pawns.
It's funny, Judith. I feel like when I play, I hate having double pawns, but when I commentate, I'm like, oh, that's your problem. You deal with it. I don't have to suffer any of the consequences. And I think just to sort of show people, I'm going to quickly put a variation. We're not expecting it to happen, but just what that looks like, because it could be hard to visualize, that if these double pawns appear, one of the main points is that the e5 square is under control. This would have been a suboptimal move order from black, but you take away the e5 square,
Should just
but
be winning.
you have double pawns. Always look at the square in front of the double pawns. And here it's f5, and white can reroute this knight, knight f1, knight up to e3, and then have great control of that square. And the reason why we talk about squares in front of double pawns is how do you actually cover squares best? You use a pawn, because a knight or a bishop isn't going to be within distance of a pawn, as it will capture a more valuable piece. But when you have double pawns, you cannot fight for the square in the same way, and that's why it's kind of ill-advised just to automatically accept the double pawns. And here you would pay a price because black's pawn structure also is not ideal. This d5 pawn, we talked about it earlier, it's the base of a chain.
Oh, I was completely lost on time there.
And knight f1, knight e3 is one of the simple ways to do so. So we're talking sort of broad strokes. I'm not encouraging Ding to double his own pawns here, but actually maybe some variations there will be a time and place, especially if there's a knight on e5 already, where you take back with a tempo against that knight. So it's sort of the big picture. I don't expect Ding to make a move like knight f8. It would be bad. He knows that. He is not going to do that. But Jude, I think, as we kind of were highlighting before, h6, it feels automatic. So what else do you feel like is an alternative here? Because I don't know. I really see that as the move in the position.
Well, it's king f8 is also something to consider immediately, and wait white if he's going to go rook e1, because after king f8, rook e1, already b5 is as you pointed out not long time ago, that when the rook is on e1, b5 can be played in maybe with better circumstances. But of course, black has to be aware of different kind of ideas. Rook e1, knight e5, b3, trying to break up the center. And
Queen's
also
off. It
it's
should
very
be.
important for black to be alert about the possible unexpected things. Though there is not too many unexpected things in this position, because the ideas are quite limited. But also, for example, at some point, I think black should be aware of it. Maybe even bishop a4 at some point, being very concrete, but I think that that should be pretty slow. So yeah, h6 is the most logical move, but we can also think about it. What happens if black just develops to play. Though I'm not sure. Can black play b5 immediately?
We have the ability to use the analysis board, so let's do that. b5. This is one of those moves where
Oh,
you gain space, but you also bring your pawns closer to the enemy. So not at this moment, but a4 in a timely fashion can be painful. So b5, I guess what would the potential drawback be? Rook e1 and knight e5?
Well, after a4, I think
I
for the
no one
moment
saw
black
that.
can play b4, and he can be quite happy about it for this pawn structure. So I would not play a4. I would indeed think about rook e1 first, or knight e5 possible as well immediately. But let's say check first, very logical. King goes to f8, and then knight e5. So this is kind of seems to be the optimal
What is the
position
move?
for white. And this is a question whether what is this for black? What happens if black just plays bishop b7? Can he play bishop b7, or bishop b7 is already a blunder because knight takes d7, knight takes d7, and bishop can take on h7 because
Ah,
g6
king g2, and I have to run. Oh, that's hard to see.
h6 mate.
Not a checkmate you see every day, but really important for people who castle queenside, because oftentimes you think that pawn is untouchable and the king is sort of in a castle queenside position, and then you get checkmated like this and you regret everything you've just done.
Well, of course, taking a pawn on h7, it's always tricky, as Fischer took it against Spassky in, what was it, game 1 or game 2?
Game 1, right? He
Game
forfeited
one,
game 2.
I think. Yeah. Game 1, he took on h2 and got a big surprise over there. But so this is why when it comes to something concrete, this is why we talk about h6, right? That in a very unexpected way, that pawn can be grabbed. So let's go back. And if we go back just a few moves before, like b5, exactly, knight e5. So bishop b7 is not possible for concrete
Not clear to
reasons.
me.
But maybe h6 here is possible, and there is nothing wrong with that. But then already white is not going to be going to h4, but probably white is going to f4, and immediately threatening with some tactics because the d6 bishop is under attack. So
Sure.
these are the reasons why it's very important right now for Ding to think about it, to play h6 in advance immediately, or he has time for playing it in a later stage.
And Judith, this type of position, I would say that if there was no evaluation bar to the left of the board, I would think that black's almost lost. Like this, how this position looks, because you're so far behind in terms of that rook on e8 is not in the center. There are all sorts of tactics.
Good.
You never want to take. You can't take on e5 with a knight, of course. You lose control and you get forked. If you take with a bishop, then it's 2 bishops advantage for white on an open board. That's bad news. But I'm going to look because I don't really see what the move is. Bishop b8. Come on.
Really bad.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's a typical thing. It's a typical engine thing that you think
Ridiculous.
as a human that, well, after bishop
Completely
f4, it's this huge advantage for white. And then the engine says, cold-blooded, bishop b8, no problem for black.
And look at this, Judith. Knight f1, if you're trying to go for this d5 pawn eventually. Knight g8 is one of the top... Knight g8 is what's recommended. So you're just putting all your pieces, kind of Fischer random style, chess 960, freestyle, whatever you want to call it these days, just putting them on the back rank, and somehow black is just
Back the king.
fine.
Back the king.
But this is the secret in this position, these type of positions. I had quite a few games like that I think I have a great development and fantastic.
I should have probably sacked, but
and in these positions, I played with Yusupov, who was an expert in these kind of structures in the Petrov and others. They just go back knight g8, they go back knight e8, and everything is protected.
I don't think black can escape this.
We simplify the position and it's equal.
But it feels
So
like.
it is
Feels like this is
difficult
very
that
difficult to
even when you reach knight to e5, king on f8 is just the best spot for the king because of knight g8
Sure.
possibilities, because knight e8 is protected, because quite a few things. And this can be done by black because the structure is so strong and so healthy that these quiet passive moves, temporary passive moves, it can be afforded by black. Because once it regroups to e7, black can go f6, king f7, and there were so
I
many
feel
games
like
where
there's
it's doing
something
kind of
here, but I just don't know.
regroupings, playing f6, king
Maybe it's
f7,
this.
and later
Not
on
really.
black comes out with the other pieces, simplifies, and it becomes a draw. But this is the big question,
Oh,
whether, how and when they can do that.
It's funny, Judith, because you mentioned the legendary Artur Yusupov, and there's so many luminaries of the game. They're just so good at retreating their pieces because they understand that that's what is necessary to take a step backwards before moving on elsewhere. So this position, though, if Ding Liren is calculating and he's trying to visualize the future, this is not what you want. And even I see the engine saying it's just slightly better for white. Nobody wants this. And compare this position that we have on the analysis board. I'm just going to go back to the alternative. When you play h6 right away and you get rook e1 check, king f8, bishop h4, like even if you play b5 here, it looks better because your pawn's already on h6. So after knight e5, there is no ability to win an h7 pawn. Bishop b7 not forced, by the way, at the moment, for everyone wondering. And your knight h5 idea still comes to mind to play g5 next. Like, why would you wait a turn to allow the bishop to f4, which is clearly a better diagonal, versus kicking it right away? And it may not seem like the most important thing in the world, but sometimes it is essential to force a piece to a worse diagonal or a worse square for the time being, and then proceed with your ultimate plan, which is b5 and maybe an eventual b4 if you get the time for it.
why am I
Yes, and
dropping?
here, for example, if black continues bishop b7, white can also play bishop g3, but I believe after bishop
Some pure
g3,
nonsense.
bishop e7 can be played. Which after maybe bishop f5, putting pressure, trying to force black to capture on e5, so white can be taking it possibly with the pawn.
But I guess your knight h5
But
again.
then knight h5, yeah.
Playing
I
like the
have
most
a great square with the knight on d4,
crazy.
but this is too much. No, this is too optimistic. So maybe bishop f5 is not the best move.
It's frustrating when the direct plans, attacking a piece is the wrong move, but it also actually goes to show, which is very important for me, is that at some point black can and will take on e5. Because in many positions, and just to sort of go back here, taking on e5 with the bishop, nobody
with the
really
queen.
wants to do that. Giving away the bishop pair. Taking with the knight will never really be a thing because you walk into a fork. And yes, for everyone watching, there is a temporary pin down
Really
here,
bad.
but that's not going to do the trick because once you play a move like, say, knight to f3, you protect your rook, and then white will win one of these minor pieces. So taking on e5, not available often, but when it can happen, it can be very dangerous because white can forget about that possibility sometimes.
Yes, indeed. So, but bishop e7 is good for that reason also, that
Yes.
black sometimes wants to exchange on e5. So these are the alternatives, and these are the outcomes which can happen after h6 or without h6. Black plays b5. Of
How do
course,
I get
king
more?
f8, as we discussed, that's also
Maybe.
possible. But for the moment, I believe, though I don't know, can black play knight h5 just for the fun of it to try it?
Starting with knight h5 or including
Yeah.
h6?
No, knight h5 immediately.
Is h7 hanging in some of these positions because of check and that same little checkmate? Taking
I
over
was
the
thinking
square.
here to play g6,
Okay, check.
knight g7, and I thought I will be playing knight f6 next.
Ah, and I'll play knight g5 to respond to that. So, okay, knight g5 to start with maybe, just to get...
Knight f6.
Oy, 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 what a mess this is. Are you going to play knight g4? Stuff to try
Testing.
as you mentioned, Bobby Fischer learned that lesson in his World Championship match against Boris Spassky.
I
Yeah,
lost on
it's
top.
an interesting position. How to get out, how to rescue
No, winning
these,
position.
bishops
Crazy.
from there, or if you cannot rescue them, how to
Crazy.
continue, right?
Internet.
A very weird
Cool.
setup. I guess knight g4 is such a strong threat. I'll deal with that first. And if bishop f4, I do have knight over to f3, and I'm holding everything on for the moment, but I don't feel super confident or comfortable with it.
And hope.
I just thought with black to play bishop d7, to play slowly.
I wasn't expecting you just to calmly sacrifice a pawn and then just move on from there, but I see your ultimate point that this is a permanent problem. So even trading rooks will be possible for black because white in some positions will be playing down a minor piece. So for everyone watching,
This is correct.
you're up a pawn as white. You grabbed h7, but later on, that could be a problem that your bishop is so sidelined over there that then black can focus on the queen side, and I think that's exactly what
I can just take this, right?
indicating is you can even just play down the b file, and white's pieces are so awkward.
And I want to remind you that we have this evil bar on the side, and we are still looking and analyzing this position, partly because it shows that white has a clear advantage. And I think none of us see really why is that true, right? Or do you see it why white is better?
I don't see it. No, I
Yeah.
see that white's up a pawn, but I'm scared because the bishop's trapped on h7.
So the reason I'm saying this because the players don't have this. Nobody is standing next to them or giving a hint that you have a good position. So search, go, calculate because you have a good position. But contrary, we don't know, and they don't know. So you can give up analyzing and go further in any of the lines because you just have your intuition and you say, no, this cannot be good, or I don't see why is it good. Otherwise, the people would be standing there and saying, yeah, 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 there is something I should analyze and go back and forth and look and find. But we have h6 on the board.
Oh, we go here.
I actually want to kind of echo your sentiments there because I think one of the keys at the higher levels of chess, and even when you're starting out, is you need to be skeptical. And oftentimes beginners, they question their own moves, but forget to question their opponent. So let's say you're just starting out and you're worried, oh, am I going to blunder this? Am I going to... Sometimes your opponent also blunders. So don't just trust your opponent.
Bad,
you have to
bad.
calculate. And there is not infinite time unless you're playing daily chess without any sort of time limit.
Playing
But
so
these
badly.
Players, right? That h7 pawn, maybe it could have been grabbed. The engine
Simple.
backs it up. But I think most of us, we
Right over the squares.
I'm not getting my bishop trapped over there.
Back the bishop.
In many ways,
Capture.
doing a Bobby Fischer on the chessboard
Back
is
the
a great
pawn.
thing, but there's so many awesome attacking
Take the
games.
pawn. Take free pawn.
Fantastic strategic decisions and beating the best player 6-0 in matches. But then there's that famous bishop takes h2 where it's like, okay, don't bite off more than you can chew. But I think what I'm trying to get at, Jude, is that you have to calculate it.
Asshole.
You don't just want to throw it away and
Mindful.
pretend like it doesn't exist. You really want to dive deeply when you have the time. And that was a great position for people to analyze on their own, to say, how would
Back the
white
queen.
extricate that bishop? Is that even possible? What's the deal there, and why would
Oh,
white
why
use
don't
that
I take
as a
free
tool to
rooks?
try to sort of improve white's
Boom.
position, or is it going to backfire? And you can even
Boom.
sit at home on a board and have somebody working with a training
boom.
partner look in engine to see how to respond. But those type of positions are really valuable for players trying to improve their own chess because it looks like
Okay,
something
this
that's
is good.
impossible, but always be skeptical. There may be something in it.
No way this pawn is...
Well, to be critical and be self-critical is one of the key elements in growth for a chess player. And this is why
Why am I
players,
allowing this?
have to always be very critical and analytical.
Notice how white's
about
pawns are on the dark
games to
squares.
understand themselves
Generally a
better,
good
to
thing
be
for me.
able to avoid the same mistakes and look for new opportunities, new ideas. Now, while we are talking, I'm watching the diagram on the screen, the position, and I thought maybe it's a smart thing by Gukesh, not giving rook e1 check and still keeping the tension. And his idea might be like one of the ideas could be that if black plays bishop
Here.
f4, I think we touched this
Here.
after rook e1 king
Ah.
f8, bishop h4,
Careful.
just as an option for black.
Okay,
But
that
I
was
think
bad,
here,
but
it would be not
acceptable.
very good for black, and the reason is because the bishop stands sorry, bishop stands great on
Push.
b6 when black plays b5,
Uh,
kind of.
and after a4 he can go b4. So if now
Reverse
bishop
Sicilian
f4
variation.
happens on the board, then b3 would be already much
Okay, I'm just
more
gonna put my knight
powerful,
here.
because if black gives up the
I think we can just start trading down.
c3, discuss because that's a clear game for white, right? A takes
We can
B3.
prepare it a bit though.
Suddenly the A1 rook
I'll
is
have to.
very active. Also C4 is as an
We don't have
option.
to force it right
White
now.
breaking in the center. Bishop can improve its position. Bishop D3. So we don't talk
Maybe
about
here.
this right now. But I want to point out that after
I like this. I like this
B4,
transformation.
continuation for black is B5, which after A4 can be
I
the
like
next
this.
move. And A6 is not possible because of the A5, right? There is a pin. So after A4, black can be maybe in kind of little trouble because black has to give up
Maybe this.
the tension.
Oh, what am I doing?
Takes A4
Oh,
is not
luckily I
actually
have
because
this.
white
That
is
was
going to
really
be
bad.
capturing the BC4.
Yeah, the
And,
fact that I had that was just
white,
really
will be in trouble because losing the other
his
pawn.
luck more than anything.
But black has to play C takes B3 after A4. And,
Yeah, it's gonna not get so fun. Okay, well now
or not really. Let's say bishop B3.
now black is.
And I don't know what black should be doing.
Wow.
Taking on A4 or
That was.
can black go bishop A6?
Ooh, that's
bullet, I guess.
Was not a move I expected, but bishop a6 just protecting and developing. And Judah, I'm going to ask a quick question here. It looks like a position where at first white should be better.
Free pawn?
Going to get an active rook on its starting square.
Oh,
We
even
also
freer
have
pawn.
the
Oh,
potential
now
for
pieces are coming.
black, right? The
Hey, we
changing
take that.
structure, it favors white
Definitely.
in some ways, but also favors black in others.
Absolutely, and that's why if there is nothing concrete after bishop
Can take free
then black
pieces,
can
take 'em.
easily be completely fine because once white captures a takes b5, then bishop on b5 would be standing great and getting ready to play a5, a4.
Take advantage of mouse slips.
And also sometimes after g5 to go knight b6 and control the c4 square weakness as well. So
Controlling
this
the
is
dark squares
something,
already.
An option that the position would be open up on the queen side after bishop f4.
So
Don't
many
go here.
possibilities here, and that's what happens when there are
Poking 'em.
five positions. It means you can often explore more avenues, whether it's
Back.
the king side or the queen side, because there are not so many direct threats. So Ding, he has been studying this position. He's actually well behind on the clock, 25 minutes. We've been discussing lines, and suddenly he is down nearly half an hour. But the position, because it's not one where he may have to.
What do you even do in
his
this?
king or worry about an attack? Then maybe he is willing to invest the time now. Moves in the future might be a bit easier. And for these,
I think I
players,
just
we
have to
see the
deal with it
results
this
that
way.
when
It's kind of weird.
Gukesh has the white pieces, the games have been decisive, and
I'm
that's
down a
also
pawn somehow.
important for the scoreboard and the storyline. But when you talk about the prize fund for this event, winning doesn't only get you points on the scoreboard; it also gets you some money. A lot of pocket change there. So
think
it's
what?
great to note that these players have many incentives to fight.
Yes, the prize fund is $2.5 million, I think, or is it euro? I'm not sure. But
Am I doing?
there is big money at stake. At the same time,
Here.
we can say that the players don't care about money at this stage. They want pride. They want to win. They want
Oh,
to
this is
stay
bad.
or become the world champion because nothing else counts in this and the upcoming 1.5 weeks. What is ahead of us?
It's true. They are focused on the ultimate prize, which is the World Championship title. Ding Liren looking to retain that. But let's watch this video explaining how the prize fund works.
The World Chess Championship is the most lucrative event for a chess player. The total prize
Timed
fund
out.
is
That's really a
52.5
shame.
million,
That's a
where
shame.
the distribution depends on the outcome of the match.
That's a shame. What am I doing?
Each winning classical brings direct rewards.
Lock in.
One game is worth $200,000. If the match is decided without a playoff,
Ah.
the remaining prize money will be
Got me.
split evenly between
Okay,
the two
I'm gonna
players.
keep playing though.
If the match goes to tiebreaks, the winner will cash in $1.3 million, while the runner-up will take home $1.2
No? Okay,
million.
close the position. It's okay. I probably should have.
Huge prizes
First.
up for grabs, but right now the players have pretty much everything but that on their mind. But it is cool to see that the players, they will be compensated well for this match. And for Gukesh. He is extremely young, and ooh, I was about to talk about
Oh, why did I
his
do that?
demeanor and his poise, but look at this, Judith. Knight H5. That was your
This is the world of
suggestion in the front
compensation.
desk that
Imagine that.
You're happy with Ding's last move because he's trying to secure himself a pair of bishops.
This is a very typical plan of for black to play knight h5, and it's one of the main plans to have the square of f4
The
for
world of
white, which is
compensation,
very
beautiful.
important. But at least as important
Ah, I
to
probably should
think
have
about playing g5
slightly
the
different.
next move and get rid of this black square bishop after
This
bishop
is
g3,
probably what
capturing it,
Huh?
or only after that to play knight f4
This is
and
okay.
keep the knight there. So white can have problems with his bishop on h4 in these
Probably
knight
here,
f4
right?
positions.
And then even
That's
here?
very clear.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And here?
It's true that this bishop is immediately coming under fire. And I guess maybe this is not the moment to ask this question, but I'll do it anyway. Is there a time? Do you feel like at some point Ding could consider playing for more? We just played the video on the prize fund. Again, $200,000 per win. That's a lot of money. They're not thinking about that. They're just trying to beat the player in front of them and find the best moves at each and every turn. But Judith, if you had this position and you were facing off against another really strong grandmaster, do you get the sense that you'd rather have the white pieces or the black pieces if you were trying to win?
It's not such an easy question. At first, of course, I think white.
Imagine winning that. Imagine winning that game.
Person to play for advantage.
Oh, you want the rematch? Yeah, let's give it back.
Okay, it can be pushed back my bishop to g3, and you may eliminate my bishop. At the same time, the e5 square is still can be important from white side. And after g5, you should also not forget that there is going to be a weakness of black, the f5, which can be exploited in different ways.
Oh, let's just get more
One
space.
of them is to play knight f1 and then knight e3, attacking the d5 pawn.
Actually, I
also
don't like how I'm
eventually
playing.
showing up with the knight on f5, especially if black is going to be playing g5.
Oh, this is okay. This is a really strong
Just to show
pawn
exactly
structure.
what you're talking about, let's say we take with the pawn, knight e3 hits d5, also f5. So it's not just double pawns where you have to look at squares. When you push your pawn, think about the squares that are left
Even this is
behind.
fine.
And the square next to a pawn is often accessible to your opponent's pieces.
Wait, can't I just take this?
The d5 pawn is the e5.
Oh no, I
square
can
on
take it
the
now.
And now that you play g5,
Okay.
you may want to go back to g6 once the bishop disappeared. You can't do that. Pawns don't move backwards in this game.
How about this one?
No. That's another game. We don't know what it's called, but it's not this one.
You gave the Dikembe Mutombo finger wag there. Said, not in my
Okay.
house. No, none of that for you.
No. So it's a big question. What is this? Because of course, in the closed positions, we say that the bishop pair is not so valuable as if it would be an open position. And if let's say we want to make some moves,
Not even sure
of
what's
course,
going on here.
Black's ideal setup could be moving the knight to f8, playing bishop e6, then coming back with the knight, or even playing f6, king f7, very typical.
Wait a second.
And also at some point to play h5. At the same time, of course, white is also going to be playing and moving around. If f6 already, immediately knight e3. So the
Oh,
black
what am I
knight has to
doing?
play d6 to
What am I doing?
defend the d5 pawn.
Really disgusting.
And,
Whatever it is.
White can go g4, for example. I think it's a very promising move. G4 with the idea to play g3, king g2, rook h1. And that can be very, very promising. And then later on, before going to f5 with the knight, to play bishop f5, exchanging the white square bishop, and then bring only the knight to f5. And
What is actually going? This is bad. This is not good chess. I'm sorry.
Big disaster.
Whoever's viewing this, I'm sorry.
Side,
All right.
it's just ruining the party. I mean, in this position, I would just say white has a huge advantage, exchanging the bishop, knight f5, g3, king g2, rook h1, and everybody would believe us.
Okay.
Well, I think white does have a huge advantage, at least on practical terms.
Back.
But this goes to show
I take.
why double pawns are an issue. Because even if white does win the h6 pawn, Judith, I think we can acknowledge that there's not such a clear way to proceed from there. So even if you do get this,
I'm playing so badly.
Force that. I don't want to play
Badly.
passively with bishop f8, though maybe that's also okay. But But I'm just trying to illustrate the point that if you take actually somehow black is now much better, but I guess it's because knight a4 and b5 and black is ready just to storm the queen side. But I was just trying to say, even if I don't have this immediate idea from black, h6 may not be the most valuable pawn in the position.
Yes, but actually, it is interesting that we wanted just to demo a line to prove that the f5 square, how vulnerable it can be and painful for black. Having the knight on d6, so I just said, okay, knight b6, because poor knight has to go to b6 to defend the d5. And eventually, we see that actually it's a great spot for the knight. It can show up on a4, and after that to play b5, b4. And there is an incredible counterplay. It's not only just a counterplay, but actually white can get in huge problems after knight a4, and b5, b4 is just unstoppable.
And again, we're going to be like, how is this only slightly better for black? We keep sort of seeing new variations unfold, and it does seem like the side that was worse is suddenly better, but how much better is really the huge question that is going to swirl around in any analyst's head. So this would be a disaster for Gukesh. Of course, we took liberties. We went down variations and a little bit of a rabbit hole. But in general, I think the idea is really, really important that g5 does weaken the f5 square, and that's why you have to calculate, not just play off the cuff when you're pushing pawns like this, because then you leave that square behind. And for Gukesh, he needs to figure out his current move. Is it going to be b3, which we've mentioned? Is it going to be rook e1 check? Is it going to be head start, knight f1? Let's invite g5. We're not afraid of that. But ultimately, Judith, I do think that Ding, he is playing a nice game from the black side thus far. And so he shouldn't be feeling anything but content with his position.
Yes, I think black is doing fine. And black, basically, what is sometimes when you're not sure what to play, it gives you self-confidence. I think you know that you didn't do anything really wrong, and black didn't do anything wrong, and the structure is very hard to crack. So now the big question is for me, what is Gukesh going to be doing with his bishop on h4? Like, what's the plan? If he's ready to go rook e1 and knight e5 immediately, or actually this move, let's say rook e1. Can we bring up our analyzing board and discuss? Because there's also another idea. If rook e1, king f8, knight e5, it's not only g5 what is possible. What about taking knight takes e5 now, and after d takes e5 to go bishop c5? Controlling that important d4 square. And suddenly the bishop from c8 is going to be developing. Knight f4 is always there, but I can wait. I have an option to play later g5, so to exchange the black square bishop for my knight, but there is no rush.
It's a really good illustration, Judith, of oftentimes we've been not dismissing knight takes e5, but it was impossible to take on e5. But knight h5 from black stops white from playing this plan. So it sort of shows that every single position has nuances that we need to take into consideration, because just a half step ago, if this knight were still on f6, this would be losing for black. You just walked into a fork, you lose a minor piece. But with the knight already on h5, you can get away with the capture in the center. So many possibilities at play here. Gukesh, he is trying to work through these possibilities and figure out what future he wants. He's young. His bright future is just getting started in the chess world. And John, I know you're sitting there looking at this position, wondering what will happen next, who is going to be playing for a win. So what have you been watching and enjoying as you've been seeing the action unfold?
I think what I've taken away from what we've been talking about today so far is that let's put the cards on the table. We've played an opening in this championship match that on the surface, people are going,
I'm going to do that.
Pawn structures, this looks really drawn. But taking a look at the analysis, watching the lines that you guys have been putting through the analysis board, Judith, it's given me like a renewed appreciation of all of the different subtleties in a position that you have to take into account. If you just sit back and go, oh, this looks quite equal, I don't need to worry about it, you can go from an equal to a worse or losing position
Okay.
almost as quickly as you can blink. So the amount that the players need to calculate and the positional subtlety that they need to appreciate.
I'm gonna
here
play a
is
little
so
bit more.
Absolutely huge.
How long have I been?
Yes, it is the case.
I've been
Even
streaming
the
about 50
evaluation,
minutes,
I think
so
it is true.
I
that
will
it's
stream
fully
for another 10.
reproducible. But indeed, it is very important to understand the nuances and the very small details of the position in order to be able to keep the balance. And at the same
I do
time,
that.
there are a lot of lines you can
Ask you a
calculate.
question.
As we showed that there are a lot of actions can happen on the board, even structure changes, which can lead to a different evaluation at the end. Here in these kind of positions,
I just want to do
what we
something
want
like
to
this,
see
but
that
it might just be
what
premature.
happens after a structure change, what has been the difference before, and we have to be very analytical about it. And this is why also I love chess. Of course, I love chess because it's beautiful moves, because it's actions, because it's tactics, because it's beauty. But at the same time, it can be some very small, the smallest details which makes the difference. And in this position, I think this is the case. It's very small changes. If only one piece, one pawn moves, then it can change everything. And
What am I
also
doing?
requires a lot of
What am I doing?
attention from the players. Like every move
This is
seems
so
at
dumb.
first, oh, it doesn't matter if I
I'm
play
playing like pure
eluding it or
garbage.
not. I play knight h5 first. I play king f8 first. Doesn't matter. I can make here and there. It's never here and there. You have to be very accurate in order not to blunder and not to make weaknesses and not to make moves which actually gives a strategic and positional advantage to your opponent.
Moves that could seem innocuous might actually be troublesome for your position later on if you don't give them due consideration, and that's exactly why both Gukesh and Ding are settling in, properly understanding as much as they can
Oh.
the position before considering their next
Completely
move.
ridiculous.
But they're not the only ones that are going to
I
be
should stop playing
playing chess
Bullet and
live
play
into
like
December
Blitz or something.
of this year.
Ridiculous.
Plenty of other top players are going to be going to the Champions Chess Tour finals, and that's interesting for you guys watching the broadcast today, because if you're watching remotely and you're not out in Singapore, you can head out to Norway to check out the Champions Chess Tour finals yourself. So they will be gathering in Oslo, Norway from the 17th of December to the 21st, and that's inclusive of Magnus, Alireza, and MVL, 8 of chess's greatest titans. And along with the high stakes and high caliber action over the chessboard, you can also get tickets to have perks like hand and brain, simul displays, photo opportunities with the players, and a whole bunch more. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, hit !CCT finals in the chat, or visit go.chess.com
Like they never played this position.
/CCT finals 24 to secure your tickets now. For now, though, we're going to be going to a quick break. All square in Singapore at the moment, but plenty of subtleties to consider as we navigate through this middle game. Round 5 continues after these.
All right, well, we're here with Grandmaster Vishy Anand. We're going to ask him the questions that everyone's been thinking. Now we get to ask Vishy, are you helping Gukesh?
I'm going to lie about that.
Okay, but are you helping him maybe with his white openings?
The way he's playing them, I feel like saying yes, but I'm still going to lie about that.
Okay, but maybe you're helping him with something. Are you carrying his luggage for him?
No.
Are you pressing his shirts?
No.
Are you cooking his meals?
For his sake, I hope not.
Okay, but are you rooting for him?
Yeah, all right.
All right. Vishy Anand, he's become more of a fan, and we're going to see how everything plays out. Thanks for your time, Vishy.
This is an interesting. It feels winning. Okay, now it's definitely winning. What? This GG.
Has this ever happened to you?
Oh, shoot. Another mouse slip.
What about this?
Oh, well, holy bishops en passant. I think I'm getting carpal tunnel. There was a way to play
What the
chess
heck?
with
Danny
a
Wrench talk.
life board.
What if I told you you can with Chess Up 2? That's right.
I should just take the queen. Why am I not making my life easy?
Online. Wow.
Okay.
Simply connect your chess.com
That'll
account to
do.
our state-of-the-art Chess Up 2 and get a game started. Every time you move,
If I don't push back up to at least 1700, I'm gonna be
data online
quite
directly to your opponent. And as soon as they move,
quite
scrolls will light
disturbed.
up, signifying which piece is going where.
Well, shucks. This Hikaru guy seems pretty good.
Oh,
With Chess Up 2, mouse slips and sore wrists are a thing of the past.
My carpal tunnel is gone. Well, this sure is fun. I'm playing online against my new friend Hikaru. Who needs a family? But I sure do miss clicking on a piece and seeing all of my available moves, like they have on chess.com.
Well, Danny, you're in luck. This feature is totally available on the Chess Up 2 as well.
Wow. Well, I'm convinced. But hey, what if I don't just want to play an opponent online? What if I want to use one of chess.com's other great tools?
I thought you'd never ask. With Chess Up 2, you can fully take advantage of the chess.com integration by playing bots, analyzing your offline games, and even using our optional AI assistants to visualize the quality of moves with color-coded hints.
Well, holy Chess Up, you did it. You made IRL chess cool again.
You got it, Danny.
And how do you know my name?
Play chess today on the board of tomorrow.
We're in LA. Today's the day that the Jaime Jaquez Jr. bot comes out on chess.com. Jaime, we love you.
I should have been more mindful of that.
Chess.com app. Choose Jaime Jaquez Jr. right there. We got a scotch, but he's playing May Light. Wow. Oh my god, I just wanted my rook with check. Classic Jaime. Oh, that's actually a great chess talk. Like, oh, this is some of the best dialogue I've actually ever seen. But unfortunately for Jaime, so is defeat. And just like that, play Jaime Jaquez Jr.'s bot on chess.com. Peace out.
Yeah, I'm just losing.
This December, the world's top chess minds clash in the heart
Ooh,
of New York City.
good thing nobody's watching the stream at the moment.
Championship. Witness world number one Magnus Carlsen
Playing
and
so-
other stars from across the globe. Rapid and blitz, chess in its most thrilling form, unpredictable and unforgettable. Fast moves, tactics and blunders, and moments.
What am I doing? What is my opponent doing?
With chess excitement.
We're both playing like trash. Really sad.
Have a friend or family member who loves chess? Gift them a chess.com membership today and see them take their game to the next level. You can choose a gold, platinum, or diamond membership.
Ridiculous.
For 1 month.
Everything is ridiculous about it.
Want your gift to arrive on your friend's birthday or on a holiday?
Literally
It's
everything.
Scheduled to arrive up to 90 days in the future. All premium plans include an ad-free experience, unlimited puzzles and lessons, and unlock all bonus.
Continues to be
Go
ridiculous.
platinum to add unlimited game review or diamond to unlock insights and coach explanations. Give the gift of chess today.
Really bad. I have something to this. I don't. Like. I don't know. Bad. Oof. I am playing trash. Trash. Okay, the last bullet game. Not playing.
Welcome back to round number 5 of the FIDE World Championship. King F8 is now on the board, but only after a double-digit minute think. Robert, we were talking about this on the analysis board. I feel like I don't need to underline the point, but even though the position is equal, if all roads led to Rome, you should be able to blitz out a finish here, and that obviously isn't the case. Both players have been taking their time deciding where to maneuver and why, in case some subtlety of move order, anything gives them an advantage that they can use to try and squeeze out of the endgame.
If they didn't blitz the end of yesterday's game when there was really no life left in the position, they certainly will not be playing their moves instantly in this one. And there is plenty left to discuss. This is not just game over just because the evaluation bar says zeros, it's equal. You can see it on Ding and Gukesh's faces. They are really locked in. Gukesh leaning over the board. Ding, he just got his jaw on his fist, just like, I got this. I'm chill guy right now. But he has to remain composed because this is a position where if either side is not careful, it can turn from equality into a position that one of them can play for more.
Righty ho. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the possibilities that will be on the board now that King F8 is a reality. We resume this on the next move. Where are we going next? Judith, Robert, over to you.
Thank you, John. And Judith, we saw the check flicked in on E1. The king steps out of the way to F8. And you were the first to point out this knight H5 idea, which I really liked at the time. And now
fudge.
Judith, I actually like this position from Ding's perspective. I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but especially after this rook E1, we kept talking about knight E5, but we showed that knight E5 is not a good decision right now. So the inclusion of rook E1, I think it allows Black to focus some of his attention in the near future.
Okay, that was last bullet. We got.
Or maybe. Yes, at this point, there are quite some plans and options for Black. He can go G5, he can go B5, right? So he can play on both sides.
With 5.
And well, these kind of positions, what was very frustrating with White, that at first glance it seems to be better developed. So I have the E file. I can go knight E5 anytime. I have a very beautiful C2 bishop, which is, well, we cannot say how useful it is, but at least controls the F5 square. And somehow Black's position is like so stable. It's so difficult to crack because the D6 bishop is,
I mean, what do you do here?
E7
like legitimately, do you?
It's covering also the E5.
Mess up your king
as its role. It also, if Black plays B5, then B4 is supported by that bishop. So only some of the pieces are active for Black.
It's strange.
Some are very passive, like the A8 rook and
the
C8 bishop. But in the long term,
really,
it has great potentials because if the knight from D7 moves away, then the bishop on D7 stands excellent. The bishop on E6, it can stand excellent. The knight from H5, it can go to F4. What an outpost for the knight, right? So it is very tricky because at first you think that White should be the one who is and who can play for an advantage. At the same time, it's not so easy to stop all these ideas for Black from White's side. So it can be very tricky, and indeed, it's not like before when you cannot play you cannot offer a draw under move 40. You always had that option. Okay, I don't get anything out of the opening. I will offer a draw, and then we'll see what the opponent wants. But in this match, it's not like that you try to test your opponent with a draw offer, right? No, there is no draw offer. You're on your own there and figure out how you can improve your position or what's your next move. And now there is a big question for White. As we discussed before, knight e5 seems to be not a move that is the best because Black has the opportunity to capture with the knight, and after d takes e5, the structure is changing completely. We should not forget that. And suddenly completely new ideas come to life. Bishop c5. What a bishop on c5. What a powerful bishop on c5. And suddenly Black has a very pleasant position in this structure as well. So knight e5 is not really something that White should be considering right now. You can think of bishop g3. At the same time, you say, well, why don't we wait until Black plays g5 and forcing me to play bishop g3? Because bishop g3, I think Black is just taking knight takes g3, h takes g3.
I think I'm just going to go rook b8.
Game. I mean, Black can play g6 also. He can start to play b5. Even rook b8 is possible, and only after that b5.
Yeah, rook b8, like I
for that. But anyway, I believe that after b5, Black will be playing rook b8 before playing b4, or after b4 because it just stands better there. So For sure, I would be waiting with white for black to play g5. If I have to play bishop g3, at least let's have some weaknesses on the black side. So bishop g3 again is not something I would be playing. G4 is something, you know me, I always love to play G4, but it would be too risky at this point because of knight F4, and then the F4 is so stable. So this is only for the joke of it. The knight F1 move, this is what we discussed. I think this is what makes sense to regroup the knight to E3.
Interesting decision to allow me to take.
I'm so sorry, but I flicked on the engine, and G4 is actually one of the recommended moves for white. I can't believe that I'm saying that, but G4, I mean, that is a move that you do not play without serious risk because you've handed over the F4 square, but I had to interrupt because it's actually a viable option.
I go here.
Well, yeah, what can I say on this? I mean, you know,
This is coming, right?
AlphaZero played the games against the best engine, Stockfish, and the Game Changer book came out, which is a very nice book and explains how and why and what AlphaZero is doing. And in that book, it was written that who is the person who is closest in play to AlphaZero, and I was amazed that they said it's Judith Polgar, and well, maybe it is another case that G4. Because I was always ready to play all these kind of moves, but I learned my lessons, and now you see, as an old timer, I say, well, G4 shouldn't be.
Must just
and
be
then
winning.
you come and say, no, actually, the Silicon says it's quite a reasonable option.
You know, I was really just listening and appreciating what you were saying, but I had to interject because this is a move. I mentioned Capablanca as one of the world champions whose games I've always loved. If
Can't take this, by the way.
Capablanca saw this move, he'd be like, "What are you doing? You're giving away the F4 square permanently. That's an outpost." But G4, it is a legitimate move here to meet knight F4 with just knight F1 and rerouting, and later you can even try to pin this knight, get the knight to E3.
Oh, that's
it's a move I would never consider. I'm being completely
the
transparent.
checkmate.
Judah, it's
Who'd have
why,
thought?
You've been
Who
such
thought
a
that?
legend, for your whole career. G4 is it's an okay move. It's a pretty of by the Silicon Beast, but I could never imagine playing it myself.
You know, when I was very little, I was playing chess, studying chess with my sister Sophia in one of the rooms, and then of course Susan, she was much ahead in chess.
All right, I think that'll do it for this stream. I just wanted to see technically how it works.
How can I sneak into the
now that I know how to stream, I'll probably stream some more. Thanks everyone for stopping by. A few folks who stopped by.
Had a lunch break, then
I will catch you in the next one.
After lunch, somehow I sneaked in and I was asking my questions.